Help support AMTV by becoming a patron, an AMTV staff member, and following us over on Twitter. Eurovision 2025 is only a matter of months away, and whilst for many it's the most exciting event of the year, recent revelations will undoubtedly make things a little different this time. Back in December, when the EBU announced the lineup of countries that would be taking part in Basel, the total was firmly promoted at being 38. 38 different nations would be sending their chosen songs to compete for the ultimate victory. It was an exciting reveal for Eurovision fans. Montenegro were returning after a 2-year absence, the highest country count since 2022, and with a slew of national finals coming up, what could possibly go wrong? Well, a lot, it turns out. January 2025 has truly been a chaotic month for Eurovision fans, and for the contest as a whole. Countless amounts of artists withdrawing songs, acts being disqualified or shot down by host broadcasters, those who were hoping for a drama-free year. Think again. But it wouldn't be too bad, right? After all, broadcasters can change or swap around artists all they like, but there's no way any of the countries themselves would actually withdraw altogether. Surely. You should already know the answer to this one. On the 22nd of January, the director of Moldova 1, Cornelia Dănescu, and the head of Moldova's Eurovision delegation, Daniel Crudu, made the announcement that Moldova would be withdrawing from the 2025 edition of the Eurovision Song Contest. The reasons given were numerous, including economic, administrative and artistic challenges. Cornelia Dănescu, the director of Moldova 1, elaborated further. The decision was not an easy one, but necessary in the current contest. This year's national selection highlighted certain challenges, including a decrease in public interest and the overall quality of the plays and artistic performances. This fact generated a negative perception among specialists and the public, underlining the need for a substantial reform in the selection process. Moldova is a small country. It has just under 2.5 million people for its population, but a decrease in public interest? I'm not Moldovan and don't know any Moldovans, so apologies for my ignorance, but it's always come across that they are one of the most enthusiastic nations when it comes to Eurovision. Debate this all you like, but the most controversial comment was certainly the one concerning the quality of the artists and songs that were put forward for Moldova's national final. Just to give you a reference point, here are the 12 songs that made it past the live auditions, which were held just days before the announcement of Moldova's withdrawal.
Amicii, piticii, copii, cum am fost, cum putem să rămânem în tine și numai în tine, copii fără rost, dar cu multă iubire, tu să ai grijă de noi, unde
de suflet luminat, dar de neîncetat, culeg fiori din roa sorilor, în taină stelele aprindă.
Eu nu observ culorile la semafoare, cum tu nu observai că te iubeam de tare, și nu observ cum trece repede timpul bine, la fel cum trece.
Foi verde, foi atât sensual, te prefaci într-un izvor de lumine curgător.
Memento mori, tempo se
Now, listen, say what you will about these, but you can't deny there is both variety and definitely entertainment value. Would any of these 12 numbers have won Eurovision? It's impossible to say for certain at the time of recording. We only have 3 of the 37 songs confirmed for the 2025 contest, but many of these regardless, I think, could have easily qualified for the grand final. Also, consider yourselves lucky because here's a short snippet of some of the tracks that didn't make it.
It's another world without shoes and cold. Sister, how do you feel when the crazy rain iubim, pace noi dorim, între noi să fie flori și bucurie.
Ultimately, however, the comment on the submission's quality touched a nerve with several of the participating artists and Eurovision fans the world over. But despite the drama, there was one glimmer of light that presented itself, one that could have seen Moldova compete in Basel after all. Bacho, one of the 12 successful artists from the auditions, announced on their socials that they had received a sponsorship offer from a third party. Bacho said, "They're offering financial assistance to cover all expenses related to the trip to Eurovision as they're invested in ensuring Moldova presents itself positively on the global stage during this milestone 20th anniversary of participation. In turn, we're ready to represent our country with dignity at Eurovision, considering that no one has yet seen our stage show concept, which plays a big role in the artistic image, which we haven't had the chance to present to the public in this year's final. We're awaiting a response from the TRM team representatives, so let's give the green light to Semafoare this year, and show that Moldova can rely on its young artists." This was the kind of miracle Eurovision fans have been waiting for, but like most miracles, sometimes they can be too good to be true. Everyone waited, and waited with bated breath, hoping to see an announcement from the Moldovan broadcaster, announcing that they would be sending Bacho to Eurovision after all. Then, on the 28th of January, those hopes were seemingly dashed for good.
We will be allocating the big 5 and we will do the big allocation draw for the semi-finals.
The semi-final draw took place, which not only would determine roughly where countries would be performing order-wise, but also pretty much solidifying the participation list for the year.
All right, and that's it. Those are a result we can look forward to.
By the time the table was complete, Moldova was nowhere to be seen. It seems Bacho's calls had been unheard, ignored, or dismissed by TRM, and for the first time in 20 years, Moldova would not be taking part at the Eurovision Song Contest. The first thing I enjoyed from all of this was, of course, the memes. When it was announced that Montenegro were returning and the total had risen from 37 to 38, how it was the busiest year for participation since 2022, and now we're right back to where we started. This means the ESC 2025 will be the third contest in a row to have 37 participating countries, still dangerously close to a near 20-year low. But I think losing Moldova, particularly in this very rushed, out-of-nowhere way, is bigger than we may think. "2025 would have been the 20th anniversary since Moldova's first participation, from when they and many other Eastern European countries first began to share their music, their culture, with the rest of the West on the Eurovision stage. And whilst they've had their duds, as has every nation that takes part, they've given us some classics, like Natalia Barbu, whose song Fight in 2007 is still a kick-ass classic. She'd return 17 years later for what at this time is Moldova's most recent participation. And whilst she didn't qualify a second time around, In the Middle is still a low-key bop. Come on. And who can of course forget the Sunstroke project? Don't know that name? Well, I guarantee you'll know this riff. That's right, Epic Sax Guy was part of the Moldovan entry for 2010. And they came 22nd, go figure. But Sunstroke would return in 2017, ultimately giving Moldova their best result to date, with Hey Mama taking the bronze at 3rd place. But one factor that is consistent through the vast majority of Moldova's entries at the ESC is the great sense of fun. Whether you think these songs are good or bad, you can't deny that they're entertaining. Take their 2022 entry. I have absolutely no clue what's happening here, but it was fun enough that it finished in 7th place. You can't buy that kind of result. Well, perhaps you can, but that's another story. But undeniably, over the last 20 years of Eurovision, Moldova has consistently been one of the most entertaining and most anticipated countries to watch in terms of what they're going to come out with. I'd argue they'd even have probably inspired many other countries to let their hair down a bit and experiment with things that are more wacky or more ingrained in local culture and so on. Without countries like Moldova, small as they may be in size, Eurovision loses something pretty important. It loses the heart that the contest has become known for, the sheer sense of fun and variety, and seeing something you wouldn't normally see on your TV screens. Moldova has constantly delivered that in bucket loads. TRM has already indicated that they wish to return, and this is in no way a permanent withdrawal as other countries have made in the past. But again, in what was going to be their 20th anniversary of participation, for Moldova to leave before the party has even begun is truly a tragic loss to the competition. Let's hope, as far as drama goes, that this is the peak of the Eurovision 2025 season. Oh god, I bet I've jinxed it now, haven't I?
Alone tonight.
Thank you to our patrons for helping to support the show, and a special thank you to Macra, Shaun Knock, Dord Khan, Ethan Carberry-Holt, Liam Domain, AJ Mac 200017, Deck, Jen, Traffy, Evan Hart 41, Tim Ripley, Mr. Eurovision 1986, Marnano Thurman, John Wakefield, Kieran Bolton, 40-something Manchild, Jerry Ralph, John McLeod, Saint Rocket 9, James Wallace, Ben, Kat Hegarty, Stephen Oliver, Tegan, Shadowfiend 180X, Liam Wigley, and Swan Ronson, our AMTV staff members.